Well, Angle PLC is a company we've been reporting on for some time, and today Barts, which is the hospital in London, has published a paper, is making a presentation about the effectiveness of Angle's Parsortix technology in detecting and hopefully helping to cure some cancers. We're joined now by the founder and CEO of Angle, Andrew Newland. Just tell us about what the Barts study has shown. And bear in mind, Barts is one of the many partners that you're working with who are testing your technology, seeing how effective it is.
Yeah, thank you, Nigel. Well, Barts Cancer Institute is one of the leading cancer research groups in the world, and they're working with our system in prostate cancer, which obviously is the second most common cancer for men. And what they've shown is that in 52 cancer patients, prostate cancer patients, in 100% of them, they were able to capture the circulating tumour cells using our Parsortix system.
And so how significant is that? I mean, you know, what's a comparable percentage of tumour cells being caught?
Well, it's highly relevant, both in terms of the numbers of patients, because most systems actually only capture cells from a proportion of patients, so that makes it very difficult to bring a new clinical application to the market if it only works for some of the patients. But actually what's even more relevant about it is that the Parsortix system, they've demonstrated, captures a whole range of different cancer cells, including the mesenchymal cells, which are the ones which are related particularly to metastasis, that aspect of secondary cancers forming, which is what really kills patients, unfortunately. And the traditional antibody-based systems, they don't capture these mesenchymal cells at all.
Which is the reason why with ovarian cancer, we've talked about that before, often, you know, they're not detected until it's often too late, they're at stage 4. Is it the same sort of thing that you're finding with prostate cancer?
Well, prostate cancer presents somewhat differently from ovarian cancer, and often it does present earlier, but it has some major issues to do with the progression of the cancer and therapy selection. And because our system, the Parsortix system, can actually capture these mesenchymal cells, and the groundbreaking element of this that's being presented today by Barts is that they've correlated the mesenchymal cells with the PSA levels, which is the gold standard for measuring the status of the cancer in the prostate patients. And by getting hold of mesenchymal cells, they'll be able to interrogate them, we hope, which is the next stage of the work, for therapy selection and which drug would be most effective, and also for monitoring patients that are in remission. So the ability to get these very rare metastatic cancer cells, which the traditional systems don't get, that's the bit that they've demonstrated, and that's where we think there's a major impact and potential with the Parsortix system.
And the fact that you can actually get these cells and you can do what I think somebody described as a liquid biopsy. You know, you actually can detect them now, because it's convenient to think, okay, ovarian cancer, prostate cancer, it's all the same cancer, but it's lots of different cancers which need different therapies. Presumably this will enable the drug companies to produce specific therapies to actually cure specific cancers now.
Yes, indeed. And so the mutational status of the individual's patient's cancer is the crucial part as to which therapy will work for them. And so the ability to do a liquid biopsy, as you described, which is basically getting tissue from the blood, so a simple blood test, as opposed to physically cutting out the tumour, which you can do when it's there. But for example, in prostate cancer, if a prostate cancer patient's had a prostatectomy, there is nothing to cut out, but you can still do a blood test as many times as you want to check their status and make a selection of the appropriate drugs for them. And just quickly on the point about the drug companies, yes, indeed, they're very much focused on new drugs, which are, it's called precision medicine, understand the cancer the patient has and give them a drug that works for them. And actually that's where we're targeting our research use sales, is with the pharmaceutical company drug trials.
Yeah. So talking of sales, it's great. I mean, it's showing tremendous advances, but I suppose people must be thinking, okay, how can you actually make money out of this? When are you going to start generating serious revenue and perhaps, you know, turning a profit?
Obviously, as a company, we want to make a difference and improve the outcomes and survival rates for cancer patients. But we're a commercial business, and we've invested over 10 years to get to the position we're in now. We're addressing a very substantial market. The research use sales market that we're targeting and accessing this year is worth £250 million per annum, and we think we've got a good proposition for that market. The clinical market, which is in treating patients, we're about a year and a half or so away from that, and the overall size of that, if you take into account all the different cancer types, is over £8 billion, and we think that we have the opportunity to be a leading player in that marketplace.
All right, and of course, to do that though, you've got to get FDA approval in the US. I know you've talked about this before. Are we still on target for that?
Yes, we're working on the FDA. We've got very, very good dialogue going with them. In terms of the timing of it, it's really in their hands, not ours. However, we're positive that that's moving ahead. And of course, don't forget, we already have approval in Europe with the CE mark. So what we're looking for is patient data from the likes of Barts to demonstrate how patients benefit from the liquid biopsy using the Parsortix system. Marry that with the regulatory approval we've already got in Europe. We're progressing in the United States. And then you're into the clinical market. Yeah.
And of course you had a fundraising exercise earlier this year. Still got the funding in place. You got enough funding to do all the things you want to do, and indeed, what are the next steps?
Yeah, I mean, the funding that we completed in February was oversubscribed. We raised net about £8.2 million, which is enough for 2 years of activity of the business, which is designed to take us into the research use sales market, generating profits from that activity. It's designed to cover the ovarian cancer first clinical application. Obviously, as and when we have other clinical applications in different cancers and so on and so forth, we may want to expand that. But we've definitely got well funded for what we need to do at this point.
All right, okay. Andrew Newland, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and I'm sure that we'll be hearing more about this as the whole process continues.
Thank you very much indeed.